Hey everyone, welcome to another Opus 14 Deck Tech Talk, and this time we are sailing the ocean blue. It is mono water. Wanted to do a little mono element love featuring all these lovely primals. Of course, right here we've got Leviathan, Lord of the Whirl. You'll have to forgive I've got one proxy of him because I was not lucky enough to pull one from my kits. But so we went 3 copies of our great primal here, and is this the card that can bring bouncing back as a form of genuine removal in the game? Well, it's certainly going to try. So Leviathan is, as you can see, a very costly card, but when he enters the field, you're going to get to bounce a backup and a forward and a monster your opponent controls, as many as you want or are able to. And then anytime a character is sent from the field to the owner's hand, then Leviathan gets to choose a forward opponent controls, and it loses 9,000 power until the end of the turn. Really cool effect. So the most common way you really see this, I haven't really ever seen it used on a monster much, but you'll see it come in. They've got 3 forwards. You'll bounce one, bounce it back up, -9 to the other 2. Really cool. And then on top of that, the longer he stays alive and the more bounces you get, the more just pure shenanigans you're going to get to do. So obviously I'm sure you've seen some wind water lists out there that really get to abuse the bouncing effect, but you know what? We're going to stick with mono. So this is going to be a fun little mono water list. And while we're with the primals, might as well go in with our other primal, Lakshmi, the Lady of Bliss. Really nice kind of passive card in that she'll just draw you a card at the end of every turn, which is really nice. So unless she dies immediately, she's going to get her value back very quickly. If you have 5 cards in hand, then she also will take less damage every time she takes damage, which is really nice. And of course, going with the 2 water primals, the Sahagins. You could do this at 3. They're multi-playable, but there's a few other key water backups that I wanted to make sure I got down. But it is nice being able to play either of these 2, reactivate your Sahagin, and then the effect is really nice too, where you can basically look for a card, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, and then kind of rearrange it. So I wanted to build a water deck that really focused on the bounce mechanic. And in testing, it's been fun to use these bounces just by themselves or with Leviathan on the field, because with Leviathan on, not only are you bouncing one thing, then you get to get rid of something else as well. The issue with bouncing as a mechanic has always been if they have really strong enter the battlefield effects, you know, you're just giving them a chance to replay that card, and it is a card they're getting back in hand, that so you're essentially giving them CP back in that sense as opposed to just being outright removed, but nonetheless, we still have a fun time with this. So 2 copies of our Opus 11 Legend Celeste. Forget the proxy in the back. This card is, I always felt this card was a little undervalued, and it just shines so much in this deck. So whenever she attacks, you get to choose one of 3 effects. You can either bump her by 2,000. If she deals them damage, you get to draw a card. Or you can choose one backup you control and a forward they control and return them to their owner's hand. Which means if she's on the field when Leviathan's on the field, you do that by yourself, and suddenly Celeste declares an attack, bounce your back up, bounce one of their forwards. Now you get 2 Leviathan triggers, and you can just 2 things. I really find her interesting, too, because I've actually forced, quotation marks, people to block unfavorable trades when I choose the damage effect, because they simply just don't want me to draw cards. So they're like, well, I'll just block here, so that way you don't draw. And at damage 3, she gets 2 of those effects, so she's really fun. We're leaning into 3 copies of Rosa. This helps give our deck a high burst count, which will matter. And then, if you control a card named Cecil when she enters the field, you get to draw a card. So we're running 2 of the backup Cecil. His effect is really nice if you need to use it, but otherwise he's just a cheap backup you're happy to play early and gives Rosa her draw. She also has an action ability that you can discard a card and then draw a card. And I've used that quite a bit, especially if I get like hands with a bunch of backups. Let's say I've got 5 backups out, and I just have these dead backups in hand. I'm more than happy to use Rosa's effect, just filter out that backup to keep cycling through my deck. And then, I've never gotten to use this, but the potential is there. Her special ability, Teleport, where she can dull and you pay another Rosa. You can choose any number of characters on your board and return them to your hand. So again, in theory, if they had a massive board and you had Leviathan out, you could bounce all your backups to your hand and just Leviathan, just, you know, wash them away in a tidal wave. Again, never really gotten to do it, but the potential is there. Otherwise, I just like her for her other abilities. One of the coolest new cards we got is this brand new Opus 13 Jack. Cry, Cry. Jack's such a good character from 10. And he's a fun effect. So again, as long as one person attacks that turn, he gets to come in, he'll bounce something to their hand. great with Leviathan, or just nice if you want to remove something. But if you have 3 attackers in the same turn, and then you play him, he can break a forward, and he draws you a card. It just feels really strong. It's a really good effect if you can get to it. But of course, what everyone loves about Jekt is that special Jekt block, which is you can choose any number of auto abilities, action abilities, summons, special abilities, whatever it is, cancel their effect. So for the first time, you have protection that just says, I will stop anything you do. And that's a really cool feeling because, you know, in ice decks, you've got the Edward backup. Well, I can cancel a summon, but, you know, their auto abilities are going to get me. Or you've got a forward that says, hey, I can't be chosen by abilities. Oh, well, here comes that summon. Oh, here comes a Cherry Blossom from Freya. With Jekt, it doesn't matter what it is. And I can't tell you how good that feels, holding a Jekt in hand, knowing it doesn't matter. Like, it's not this, oh, it's got to be this specific thing. No, it does not matter what they do. Jekt can and will stop it. So a fun little combo I've enjoyed with that is 2 copies of this Realm. She's an EX burst. And what she does is when she enters the field, she will get you a copy of any character you control, as long as it doesn't have the multi-element symbol. So like I can't grab Sahagin, but in particular, I like to use it to get Jekt. I will legit put Jekt onto the field, and if I have enough, play Realm in the same turn, and I just go grab Jekt block. So it's really cool that you can actually fetch out that special. And again, yeah, your opponent sees it, but still, now they've got to try to bait it out, because you're saying, I can cancel whatever the heck I want. Really love that. More fitting in with the bouncing theme. 1 copy of Strago. He's a fun card. I mean, again, in theory, if you have Leviathan down, you can bounce stuff. If they had a Yasmat, you could swap that for the Leviathan. He can also play characters, so he can swap stuff for backups. He's really fun when he works, but he can be very inconsistent because he's so dependent on what's on the field and what you have in your hand, which is a lot to line up. But man, when it does, it feels great. So some summons we're going to put in. Leviathan's going to be helped out by his summon forms. 2 copies of good old Opus 1 Leviathan, just 3 CP, bounce any forward on an EX burst. Can be great to help stop lethal damage. Nice combination with our Primal here. 3 copies of the brand new Leviathan that was not the Primal, summon from Opus 14. I wasn't sure about this card at first because I was like, gosh, I don't know, 6 CP is a lot. But the fact that it gives you 2 effects is really nice. If it's, you can choose a light or dark forward, and you can either put it at the top or the bottom of their deck. Send it to the bottom if you don't want to have to deal with it anymore, or if like they have nothing in hand and you want to make them draw a card they can't discard for CP, put it right on top of their deck. Cool. And then the fact that he gets back, and then of course he can just bounce any forward, so again, works with this Leviathan, but the fact that he can get back any water forward is really cool. Makes things like having 1 copy of Strago feel fine. And again, I really use it for Jekt. I'll Jekt special, cast Leviathan, so not only am I stopping your blocker, I'm getting back my Jekt special, my Jekt block, so now I can stop you, get back a key copy of Leviathan Prime, whatever you need. 1 copy of Octomammoth. Great, great Amano artwork. This was a fun boss to fight in 4, although very difficult if I remember correctly. And he's going to be a forward with 8,000 power, assuming you've got your backups out. With Waka, he's going to go up to 9,000. And just bouncing 2 forwards is really nice. Again, with Leviathan, that's 2 Leviathan triggers. But even without Leviathan, it's a really, feels like a very efficient way to just push people out of the way. Really liked him. Some more ways to bounce. 2 copies of Backup Scholar. I've always enjoyed this card in mono just because it's a way to help protect stuff. But again, it returns something to your hand. And so like, let's say you use this on Leviathan. They go to hit your Leviathan. They're going to break it with an Odin. You can bounce it back to your hand with the Scholar, and Leviathan sees himself leave the field. So his effect will still go on the stack. You'll still get to shrink something for 9,000. And like, they can Amaterasu that. What does it matter? He's already, you know, done his effect. They can't even hit him. It'll just cancel the ability. So I really like Scholar. And now we'll transition a bit, but finishing off the bounce, but also leaning into our other summon theme. 1 copy of Mockery. Really good card. You can discard 3 summons from your break zone, remove them from the game. You can either draw a card, you can bounce a forward back to its hand, or you can reduce the cost of your next summon by 3. She also passively reduces the cost of summon by 1. So the only thing you would ever use that last effect for is this Leviathan. We have Yuna in here, so her 1, Yuna's 1, -3. You can pay 1 CP and cast this Leviathan. I've honestly never done that because I just find the draw and the bounce to be way better, but it's there if you need it. Really nice way to help save herself, save Leviathan. Again, it'll make him trigger again if they're going to try to take him out. 1 copy of Folka. She is another one. You can discard a water summon. You can either protect her for a turn, she can't be chosen. You can bounce a forward, it costs 4 or less. Or you can choose 1 forward, what backup, activate them. I'll be honest, I probably use her the least in this deck out of these other cards, and I kind of like her at just 1. Water summons I find I either want to put into Mockery's engine or just other uses, but it is there in case you need it, in case the application does fit. So that's mostly our bounce aspect. Transitioning to our summon aspect, 3 copies of Pornum. EX Burst recurs any of the summons from the break zone. Always great. Speaking of summons, let's round those out. 2 copies of Cuchulainn the Impure. Very relevant card in the meta right now. Make a key forward, just lose all of its abilities, and at its worst, just draws you a card, which is really nice. And then 3 copies of this Leviathan as well. Again, at its worst, it's just drawing you a card, which is nice on a burst, but it will help protect key forwards, and then that damage 5 is always great, that you can just protect an entire board from getting chosen. And rounding out the summons, can't do it without our backup summoner Yuna. 2 copies of her in this case. She won't reduce Cuchulainn, but she'll take that to 2, that to 5, that to 1. Always feels great, and a great backup you're just happy to put down early. Start curving out. This is your typical mono water, so you want to get to 5 backups as fast as you can. 3 copies of Waka. I love my anthems. If you've known any of my mono decks, I love, and they're just very relevant. Making him 10,000, making her 8, putting all these, making Jack 10,000 is really nice. Octomammoth bumping by 1. Just a really good card to help your forwards push through a board. Very nice. And 1 copy of Refia is going to buff all of our water forwards as, you know, really nice. Then she'll get a buff from Waka as well, so if you get both out there, that's 2k they're all getting. Plus, her action ability can be kind of relevant here. So you can dole a total of 5 active water forwards or water backups. Choose a forward opponent controls, return it to its owner's hand. That does seem a little expensive, and no doubt it is, but it is nice in games where you're kind of already winning anyway, and like you don't really have much to use with your backups. Again, if Leviathan's there, you can just, well, I'll just dole 5 backups, boom, bounce that, Leviathan will trigger that. Or, I do really like it in response to things, you know, let's say they put down Ophilia or some kind of board wipe, something like that where you're going to lose everything anyway, and then you go, well, whatever, I guess on the way out I'll dull them, and you can even bounce your, or no, it has to be opposing forwards, but yeah, on the way out, just dull everything, do what you're going to do on the way out. 1 copy of Minwu, very underrated card, I think. Some people really don't like this card. I still think it's great. Really good against fire matches, good against lightning ping matches, and then they're going to try to break you. Stops the Ramu Primal. Really like that card as a 1 of. And from here on out, just some tech choices. 1 copy of Artemisian. Great card to see early, especially if your hand isn't very good. 1 copy of Alchemist. Another good backup to see early. Helps you dig later if you really need to get to Leviathan or something else. 1 copy of Thoradin. He fits EX Burst theme. Will let you search any card. That's always a card I never actually want to play. I always just want to hit it into Burst and go get whatever I want. 1 copy of the new Larsa. He's a Burst himself. He'll let you swap out a card in your damage zone. And then if you have, for every 3 cards with EX Burst in your damage zone, all your forwards gain 2,000. It's really nice. There's 20 EX Bursts in here, so I've gotten that online quite a few times. There isn't any way to like manually trigger bursts in this deck, so to speak, maybe other than kind of the Sahagin trick. But it's just been nice because, believe it or not, I've had some games. I had a game just last week at Locals where 2 copies of this Leviathan went straight into damage, and like I had to use the Larsa to actually get it back. So don't feel obligated to play him. He's just there as kind of a fun 1 of. And last but certainly not least, always been one of my favorite water backups, and that's 2 copies of this beautiful Amano Art Lunafreya. If a forward dies on your opponent's turn, goes to the break zone, you can put the Lunafreya in the break zone, even if it's dull, and then bring that forward back. Doing that on Leviathan feels amazing. Just bring him back 9 CP for free to let him do his effect again. So what I'll often do, actually, if I've got the Lunafreya out, I'll leave the Leviathan up as a blocker, and my opponent will try to do a trade, and I'll be like, yeah, I'll trade the Leviathan for that, and then just bring him back with the Lunafreya. Doesn't work on light or dark, so you can't use it on Mockery, but that's not your target anyway. So, this is my version of Mono Water using new primals. Had a lot of fun with it. It feels really nice to dig into mono again. There's certainly some changes you can make. Some people I could see maybe not liking the Cecil Rosa package. You could swap that out for whatever you want. The Folka, the Larsa, you know, a lot of these one-of tech choices. If you found something else you really like, you could do. Could go into a 3rd realm, go into a 3rd Celeste, but you know, your bounce stuff is kind of the main package. I've had a lot of fun with it. If you try it out, let me know what you think. Make sure to bring a delicious glass of water to drown your opponents in, and the deck list will be in the description below. Thanks for watching.